I'm here today with Six Scale Combat. He is the writer, the artist, and the colorist behind the Napalm brothers. Six, what in the world gave you the idea to do this comic book?
Yeah, actually, that's a very good question. I get that question a lot. But let me say, I'm sort of an amateur historian. If you look at my action figure work, my 1/6 work, which purely is a hobby, it's always based on historical themes. I always thought the 1960s, 1970s were a very interesting time. I see parallels going on between the 70s, especially, and what's going on right now. And yeah, the whole the Vietnam War debacle is just a very good metaphor for all these processes that are going on in society. Yeah, I had an instructor who was in Vietnam, and he told me a lot of stuff of things that happened to him being there. And well, one of the main parallels, of course, is the negative attitude people have towards unpopular wars and towards the military. And yeah, I've read a lot of comics regarding the subject matter, and I have to say the bigger titles always have this sort of yeah, I don't know, sort of an obscure narrative about the Vietnam War, and it wasn't really black and white the way I see it. And yeah, I don't know. That said, I have to say the Napalm Brothers isn't just purely about the Vietnam War. The Vietnam War is the setting, but it's more about the feel that the 1970s had. And yeah, like I said, the parallel of things that were going on. So yeah, I was also fortunate enough to to use all sorts of weaponry that was used in the Vietnam War, and this is also another sort of side hobby, I guess. Older weapons, but yeah, it was just a potpourri of awesomeness because they used World War II stuff, they used all the Soviet bloc stuff, they used French colonial stuff. And in that regard, it's really interesting. And also from a point of view of an artist, there's a lot of stuff to play around with. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I always liked all that old com block stuff, anyways. The pistols and the rifles. So many cool designs came out of that Soviet era.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and yeah, of course, the VC and the MVA they used sort of surplus stuff, and also stuff that was sent by the Soviets, but the Americans as well. I mean, if you look, because of course the Vietnam War wasn't a purely an American deal. There were actually allies there, like the New Zealanders and like the Australians. This was sort of, I guess, not NATO, because NATO is more European, but it was like an allied effort. So you also have stuff like the L1A1 rifles, and that's one of my personal favorites. It's 308, and yeah, I mean that stuff can cut through a bamboo tree
Yeah.
and small brick walls. And that's like an infantry rifle that a lot of guys use. You know what I mean? So it's cool stuff. And actually, about the L1A1 and the Australians, I really hope we get to print the ashcan Charlie in the Wire. We set it as a tier. So I think at around $1,500 we get to print the ashcan. And that story is actually sort of based on Australian involvement. It ties in to one of the characters that's in Napalm. And yeah, of course, I did some research, and it's awesome. Without giving too much away, it's going to be a cool, compressed little book, 11 pages, black and white. Yeah, some guest art by Tony Sizzle on the back cover, which is pretty awesome. I hope we can maybe do that as a poster. And yeah, I kind of forgot your question, man.
I was just asking what made you want to do a comic book about all this.
Well, yeah, like I said, my interest in the 1970s and this story has sort of been brewing for a while. I've done comics before, but it's mostly in the local scene, and it's like really really indie stuff like Xeroxing at work, but also printing stuff. And I thought I kind of figured out this story for a while based on historical references and stuff that regarding people I've talked to. And I think the Napalm Brothers story is really something I wanted to make and something to tell. And also, I have to say it does incorporate the more classic comic style. So I guess it's not so much superhero stuff. It has a lot of humor in it. And my influences are people like Robert Crumb and Cam Kennedy, who did Judge Dredd, Don Lomax, who's actually a veteran and decided to do his line of black and white comics, I think for Al at the time. So anyone really interested in storytelling from a guy who was actually in the shit, read Don Lomax Vietnam Journal because I highly recommend it. But also guys like Spain Rodriguez and Richard Griffin, the psychedelic poster artist. So it's sort of this potpourri again of all these influences that I kind of wanted to put in there, just to tell the story. It's a very basic story. It's a story about camaraderie and sort of dealing with situations as they come. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm lucky. I got to read it first, and I think people's really gonna dig this book. It's totally got that '70s feel down. It makes me think of like a '70s action movie. I could totally see like maybe like a Clint Eastwood movie. You know, it's got the right feel. It's something different than what we see right now in the indie scene. And I think people would really enjoy this if they checked it out. The art is beautiful. I love the art, man. You got a really crazy style, and I love the colors that you used.
Well, that's funny because I hear a lot about these colors, but sort of my reference in that palette is the photography of the era. If you look back at old Kodaks, of course it's all very crisp and clear. They're good photographs, but the colors are very much vibrant, And I think the colors are like thicker than stuff we get on digital these days. So actually, I kind of started drawing the story. Before I decided to go full digital. So I had some pages I did with acrylics and watercolor mix and just really traditional style. But then I figured out I needed to invest like a couple of $1,000 to get one of them A3 printers. And I was like, yeah, that's just ridiculous. If I'm planning on printing this, doing a web comics or PDFs, I might as well do it digital. So what I actually did was redraw the first 3 pages I did of the book, and I actually tried to mimic the coloring that I did on the original paper pages, so to speak. You know what I mean? But the main influences is photography and also cinematography of the era. If you look, there's a really big difference between, let's say, movies and photos from that era to now. So
I can totally see that movie influence, man. Because that's what I get when I look at the book when I read it. I totally got that 1970s movie vibe from it.
Well, one thing that's funny because you mentioned the Clint Eastwood movies. Of course, you cannot tell a story about the 1970s without including a simian, a monkey of sorts. I forget the movie, but there's this couple of movies that he did where he's like a street fighter and he's got the orangutan. I think any which way but loose. That's
Yeah,
yeah, so
yeah.
I thought, okay, we have to throw in a monkey. And then afterwards, I realized that gorillas in comics are like a bit of a trope and also a bit of a pitfall. But hey, yeah, we've got a gorilla. He doesn't have any special superpowers. He can't talk. He can't shoot guns, but he's pretty badass. And I actually sort of halfway drew his dingle in one of the pages.
That's I do enjoy that part though with the gorilla.
Yeah,
I kind of didn't
you're a
see
fan
it.
of the gorilla.
Oh, I love the gorilla. I didn't really see it coming, and then when the gorilla's there, I'm like, this is awesome. I absolutely love the gorilla.
Well, I think we might hang on to the gorilla because it's we might need a scene further on where there's some poop throwing, because
Poop jokes are always good.
exactly, yeah. So anyway, yeah, this this first book, it's 24 pages, and yeah, let me explain. I didn't want to go all megalomaniac, and I'm not going to name any names, but call it a graphic novel and go for 80 pages and whatever. I just want to print some floppies, keep the cost low, let people get into the story, and then maybe somewhere down the line we can combine this first 3 book story arc. But yeah, my main sort of motivation was to bring out a couple of floppies. So yeah,
Yeah, like in we talked about it quite a bit, and we priced the book at $10, and that includes shipping, and we
yeah.
that makes sure that it's bagged and boarded, and it's shipped in a Gemini mailer because we didn't want to cheap out, and everybody get their expensive comic book in a floppy old envelope. We want this to arrive and be something that you can cherish.
Well, again, I don't want to name any names, but we all know who you're talking about, and that's just a travesty, man. That's just a travesty. I mean, people who backed that particular book, they spent a lot of money, and you would wish you the product would sort of be handled with care, but it wasn't. So that's also one of my motivations. I want to show people, like, hey, listen, I'm not the best artist, I'm not the best writer, but if you really dig comics, if you have a story to tell, you can do it, and you can do it like classy. You can do
Yeah,
it with a little care. So that's, I have to say, a lot of heart has been put into this project. I know you, Doug, you've put a lot of heart into Lone Wolf, and I'm really stoked to be working with Greystone on this. And I think it's a really good symbiosis that we have going on. We both care a lot about comics, and yeah,
yeah,
that's
man.
sort of,
That's one thing that you were just like cranking out pages. You're like, I've got this story. I want to get it done, and you've had the book done for a while, and like now you're cranking out pages on the ashcan. You can see the drive and the passion that you have, and a lot of people, they might act like they've got the passion and stuff, but they don't have the drive to get it done. And that made me want to, like, I'm like, this dude's got it. I want to work with this dude. I want to help this dude because we find people like this, and the more we work together, the better it's going to be for all of us.
well, see, that's the thing. And if anything, I mean, I'm sure there's lots of stuff to critique about my book, but if anything, when I see a really good book or some good writing, I'm not envious of it. It just inspires me to go out and make my own stuff. So that's what I hope Napalm sort of does. Well, it's 2 things I hope Napalm does, but one of the things I hope Napalm does is sort of inspire guys who want to draw a comic and maybe aren't sure about what way to go about it. Just do it, man. Just go for it. Do it. Experiment, and get it out there. And that's all there is to it, really. I mean, this is indie comics. It's not the 16th chapel. I'm sorry.
And one thing, back when a lot of this people want to call it a community, I don't call it a community anymore because it's just a bunch of people. But there was all these promises of helping people. Hey, I'll help you do this, and we'll tell you the prices on this, and we'll do that. And I'm wanting to do that. If anybody out there needs any help, I in one of my chats today, somebody was wanting some art critique. Six stepped right up and said, "Hey, I'll help you with the art. Send me a message. If you need help finding out where to print your book at, send me a message. We're all about helping people. We're all about indie comics. If you want to team up with us, let us know, man. If you want to start a real revolution, man, it starts with you. So
Yeah,
let's
exactly.
do it."
And to sort of tie into this, I mean, you have these pros that sort of proclaim that they're starting a movement, but all they're really doing is sort of keeping the audience to themselves in a niche industry, because not everybody's into comics. Comics is sort of a niche, and especially people who want to get into comics as artists and as writers. Yeah, there's thresholds. There is gatekeeping, unfortunately, and I'm not about that, man. I really I'd say open the gates and let everybody in and let them do their thing, and then we have through capitalism, the stuff that's good will float to the top anyway. So there's no need to gatekeep. If people dig what you're doing, then that's it. Then they dig what they're doing. And that said, I also want to say, because back whatever book you want. If you hear me or see me tweeting about someone, yeah, doesn't matter. Just back the books you want, back the stories you like, and that's all there is to it, really.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's something a lot of people just can't wrap their heads around. We all don't have to be best friends. I don't have to like the same stuff you like. You don't have to like what I like, but we
Yeah,
should
exactly.
we should respect each other. And if you post something and it's like back this, and I'm like I don't really like that, that's it. I mean, it's no big deal. If you wanna back Six's book, go for it. But if it's not your thing, don't back it just because. I mean, that's the way I feel. If you feel like this is something for you, jump all over it. Who cares what anybody says?
Well, I have to say, Doug, my mission is accomplished. I wanted to create a couple of floppies. I wanted to create a story arc. I did that, and if 10 people buy this book, I'm happy. Okay, sure. I'm more happy if more people buy it, but you know, yeah, that's just kind of how it is. You know what I mean? I did what I set out to do, and I hope we get to do the whole story arc, because there is two more really cool books, and yeah, a couple of side projects. Also, I hope to bring in some more guest artists. That would be really cool. I would like to see their take on these characters, and that's one thing. This book is really character driven. This story arc. I don't just start halfway to some story and jump right in there. I really build up. I use some character development. You know what I mean? And yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, man, I really like this story, and I'm not just saying that. I mean, I really liked it. This is one of my favorite things I've seen in a long time, and I feel like people will like it if we just get it in front of them.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
if you want to back the book, but then share it. Share this with your friends, family. Somebody that likes Vietnam era stuff, any of this stuff. Say, hey, check this book out. That's going to help
Well,
more than anything.
and that's one thing. I really hope we can grow with these characters. And yeah, of course, they are U.S. Marine Corps. And what I'd like to do is maybe in next arcs, next story arcs, maybe go a little bit more into the future, and maybe tackle stuff like Fallujah and all that stuff. Because yeah, there's a lot of stories to be told in that era as well. And yeah, basically, I think I want to take away some of the negativity regarding the military. I mean, these guys, they are the defenders of our societies. Like it or not, they defend whatever cockamamie thing you have to say on the internet. So you
Exactly.
got to give these guys a little credit. You know what I mean? And there is this thing, what I mentioned before, camaraderie. This is very important, because I think most soldiers, they don't fight wars for generals. They fight wars for their friends. They fight wars for the people in the unit, and that's also a very main thing, I guess, in my story arcs. I think that's very important. So,
I just tell you, I'm really proud to be working with you on this book, man. You're a good dude. You've helped me out quite a bit. You did that awesome logo for Gravestone Press, and if Legends Lone Wolf ever gets printed, people get to see your awesome ash can that you drew me in. That's like my favorite thing ever. But
yeah, written by Skinny, by the way. It was a really funny story. We did sort of, yeah, mildly mock. Edwin Boyette at the time, but it was all in good fun. And yeah, we talked to him about it. It's all cool. And it's a cool, Lone Wolf is a really cool character as well, and it's something that you sprouted and that's really gaining momentum. And yeah, it's just, I think, both Lone Wolf and Napalm, these are really strong story arcs, really strong characters involved, and we can build on it. And I think we can really sort of gather a following for these books.
Yeah, I think so too. Uh, Something cool is I've already had people approaching me, asking me, just seeing what, you know, us working on this campaign, going, hey man, would you want to help us do this? Would you want to do this? So it's already growing, things are already starting to happen. So we just keep our heads down and keep working, and it's going to work out. I honestly believe that.
Yeah, for sure, man. And yeah, it's all it's all depending on the motivation, and the motivation is there. Man, what I mean, and also the skill is there because you are an excellent writer. And yeah, I think the only way is up for Greystone Press in that regard. And I, for one, I'm really interested to see the way you're going to expand, yeah, the Greystone Press brand. I mean, I think we could really be well, not a big player, but a serious player in the community. And that's all because it's all very grassroots. And if there's one thing that I really like, it's just people are working their way up from the bottom. Grassroots is honest in that regard.
Well, you was talking earlier about doing stuff in the indie scene and printing your own comics and stuff. That takes me back. I started, in the punk rock scene. We were recording our own CDs. Like, we would record our own music, burn them on CDs, and then we would go. Like, I was at school at the time. We would go and we'd sneak in the library and use their printer to print labels for our CDs and all kind of other stuff. So we've kind of got that same kind of DIY punk rock background going on.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. And especially my local scene was mostly tattoo stuff and yeah, CD covers. So yeah, I managed to sort of covertly sneak my comics into there. But yeah, to be honest, a lot of that stuff wasn't really for human consumption. But yeah, I mean, the sort of the drive to just do this stuff, it's there. And I have to tell you, man, it's not my intention to be like a sort of a Marvel pro, and not to take anything away from people who want to do that. I think that's cool as well. But yeah, I just want to do my own thing, have my own little soapbox and tell my own stories and do my own art, and that's all there is to it.
I know exactly how you feel. I feel like I'm not really into what Brian Polito does. Lady Death's not my thing.
Yeah.
But that dude, I want to do like he does. He's got his own little corner of the internet where he sells his stuff, does his own thing, doesn't really care what anybody else says. That's all I want.
Yeah.
I don't really care anything about working for Marvel. I don't want to move to New York or LA and write movies
Yeah.
and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, and that's one thing because you kind of hit the nail on the head right there. I think a lot of projects these days are started with the idea that one day they're going to be like a TV series or movies,
Hmm.
but I don't think that's a good motivation to get into comics. I
Yeah.
mean, sure, the reason why certain comic scripts and certain comic styles are incorporated into movies and into TV series is because they were really good, but it's not because they were created with the idea that one day we're gonna have a movie.
Yeah.
That's going about it backwards. You know what I mean?
You're
But
exactly
again,
right.
I respect anyone who sort of yeah, backs all the mainstream stuff. That's cool as well. That's okay. I have to say one thing though. There is sort of a cultural conflict going on, and in that regard, yeah, I think you have to really back people who have a genuine voice and who don't try to suppress other people's voices. Because regardless my critique of certain creators or individuals in the community, I do believe that they have the right to say the thing they want to say in the way they say it. I'm not denying anyone the opportunity of having a platform. All I'm trying to do is trying to create my own little platform, and I think Doug's doing the same thing.
Yeah, because I mean, if you don't like what they're doing and you don't want to hear it, you can just most social medias have a block or a mute. You never have to hear what they're saying,
Yeah, exactly.
and
Exactly.
just trying to tear each other down and destroy what they're doing. That's nonsense. Just ignore them. Just move on.
Yeah, exactly. Sort of move past the animosity, and I don't think real true comic book fans are the ones that sort of attack people online and all that nonsense. I think that's more, yeah, uh, um, guideless people who are searching for some sort of yeah, thing to join, and I don't know, to build themselves up, but it has nothing to do with comics.
I think they're
Yeah,
looking for that camaraderie, like you were talking about in your book. They've never had that. There's nobody around them. They've never had anybody
yeah,
who kind of
true, but
paid them
you
attention.
you can have camaraderie without having sort of a constructed enemy,
Yeah.
because yeah, that's a lot what's going on is completely constructed. It's not based on real conflicts. You know what I mean? It's sort of based on other sort of mechanisms, which is a shame, in fact.
Yeah, because unlike those people, me and you are just here to have a good time and make some good comic books.
Well, that's it. And talking about the ashcan I did for Lone Wolf, Skinny, he approached me, he said, "Hey, dude, you want to do the ashcan?" I was like, "God damn it, Skinny, I'm in the middle of finishing Napalm," but I went ahead and did it. And that's sort of what we do for each other. And yeah, again, I hope we can bring a lot of people in and sort of create a real movement, a leaderless movement, a movement based on content. And that's another really crucial thing that I want to say. I'm from the era when comics and movies and all that stuff, they used to bridge differences between people. And now the differences are being used as sort of ammo to gain notoriety or to gain infamy or for monetary reasons. But yeah, in my perspective, comics and all that stuff, it should actually be used to bridge differences, just enjoy stories, and yeah, it should be merit based and not sort of tribe based. The stuff you back. Okay, so we're launching today, actually, the 26th of January,
That's
and
right.
kind of kept my promise over the last month or so that we were going to launch in January. So I have to thank Doug for really putting the pedal to the metal and starting this IGG campaign. Hey, and Doug, what kind of perks are we going to do for campaign for the
Okay,
campaign?
we got some cool stuff. Of course, we've got if you just want the book, you can pick up the book, $10 shipped. Um, for our overseas people, and I'm very sorry about this, but it's going to we're doing a book and it's $25 shipped to you. But just because it costs so much now to send things overseas, but we are
Can I
offering.
say something? Can I just sort of drop in on this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I did create some proof. So I was thinking about raffling a couple off, just sort of pull some names out of the hat and send them a couple of comics. But yeah, can't do that for everyone. So yeah, like Doug says, if you really want this book and you're not from the US, yeah, you're gonna have to pay the shipping costs. There's just no other way. Or you can get the PDF, and the PDF is just, I think it's about $5,
Hmm.
and yeah, so you can go that route.
Yeah, and the PDF will not be sent out until the physical books leave here. So that's just the way that we wanted to do it. Sorry for everybody who buys the digital. You will not get it until the physical books leave here.
Now, I think people understand that because it has to do with leaking of content, and I think that's only natural. And so maybe somewhere along the line we'll do something more with PDFs and maybe some giveaways because, like I said, we just want to get this content out there. But as for now, yeah, I hope everybody backs the physical books. Also hope they support the troops tier because I think that's a really good concept. Can you say something more about the support the troops, brother?
Yeah, the support the troops tier. If you back that, we will send 10 copies of Napalm Brothers to Operation Gratitude, and Operation Gratitude sends anything you want to donate. They send it to troops stationed all over the world. So, you back that for it's $75. We send 10 copies. You get a copy. I think you get a sticker. Along with us sending that, and that extra money helps us package that up and send it and make sure it arrives safely. But
And I'll throw some extra stuff in there because I did print the Napalm poster or sort of a pin up because we're going to fold it up and include it with the comics. But I want to add some of those posters to the Support the Troops campaign.
definitely,
Just, yeah.
and I might even have some stuff to throw in, some Lone Wolf stickers or Gravestone Press stickers or something. But that right there is something special, and I definitely want to do something special for everybody who backs that, because it takes somebody special to donate that money to make that happen for those guys.
Yeah, for sure, man, and they deserve it. You know what I mean? I mean, the way I heard it, it's really boring. Being in any sort of deployment situation, it's mostly 80% boredom and 20% action. And in the times that these guys are bored, why not read a couple of Greystone Press comics, right? I mean,
Exactly. Well, and like from what I heard, one thing that was really cool is I did this with Lone Wolf, the issue one, and Operation Gratitude took the time to send me a handwritten letter thanking me for the books. And they were talking about how much that the people appreciated stuff like that. They do. They love getting comic books. Like you
there
said,
you
they
go, man.
they get bored, and it reminds them of of being home and stuff like that, and so they love it. So if you can,
Exactly.
back that. That's a really special tier.
Okay, and then of course we have the dev cards tier. Now somebody asked me what are dev cards. Well, this was very specific during the Vietnam War era. You had certain units like the the airborne divisions that would leave sort of a calling card after an action or sort of something they had to do, and I would leave these cards with their logo on it. And so I thought I'd sort of transfer that idea with the Napalm Brothers logo. It's got all original art, so the diamonds and the eights. It's all different art. We also brought Tony Sizzle in it in this on this. He did 3 cards. Hopefully, I can get some other artists to contribute to that one as well. But that's a really cool tier. And then, yeah, sky's the limit, man. I mean, let's see how the campaign goes. But we've got lots of ideas. We're not going to make all these promises like we're going to add this and we're going to add that. Let's just see how the campaign goes. But we have lots of ideas, and let's go with it, right?
Exactly. I get a little carried away and promise too much stretch goals, and it gets me in trouble sometimes. So I've
No,
been
it's
trying to
cool.
get six to keep me in line on that stuff.
I just I think that the main thing is the comic. I mean,
Yeah,
people should really, or I would really enjoy people, getting into to the Napalm Brothers. But yeah, like I said, there's a world of possibilities, but it all depends on how many people back this campaign. And same goes for book number 2 and number 3. This is all lined up. We have this great story arc that we can do, but it all depends on the enthusiasts. So yeah, let's see how it goes. I'm down for it, man. Rock and roll.